Chosen one. I have waited on this hour with you, my child, and I speak now as a loving guide. You are not watching by accident. You are here because your prophetic scroll is being unsealed in perfect Kairos timing. I feel the unwrapping even now, a sealed word loosening, a destiny bending toward release. Anointed one. You stand at the edge of a destined moment, a long-awaited unlocking that could unfold today, tonight, or within the coming hours and days. Do not doubt the urgency. The appointed hour on heaven's clock has come, written for you before your first breath. As Habakkuk 2:3 declares, the vision waits for its appointed time. Take heart, it will not tarry. If you have known delay, pressure, or pruning, remember these were preparation, protection, alignment, not rejection. They have sharpened you for this season. So breathe, my beloved. Expect transformation in body, spirit, and circumstance. I call you now to awaken faith, to stand reverent and ready. Receive this as a sacred invocation. Your heart prepared, your eyes open, your spirit poised to step into the quiet riches and ancient wisdom about to be revealed. Chosen one, anointed one, hear me. Heaven has bent its ear toward your life. I speak now as one who has walked through seasons of pruning and emerged with a scroll unsealed. This is not casual content. This is an activation. Your prophetic scroll, the hidden instructions written for your season, is loosening its seal in perfect Kairos timing. The hour you have been waiting for, the appointed moment on heaven's clock, is present. Receive that as fact. Receive it with reverence. I know the weight you carry. I have stood where you stand, nights of waiting, doors that stayed shut, seasons that felt like drought. When pressure tightened around my life, I learned to call it what it was: preparation, protection, pruning, alignment, not rejection or punishment. Those hard seasons sharpened me, and they will sharpen you. My beloved, every delay was a divine sharpening of the instrument that will harvest your destiny. Listen closely, chosen one. The first secret I bring from the wisdom of Solomon is not a tactic or a scheme. It is a revelation. True wealth is born from wisdom. Not just information, but living, breathed wisdom that reconfigures your decisions. You cannot receive the hidden riches of your scroll without this inner knowledge waking up. Wisdom is the seed that the Spirit plants in silent soil before a visible harvest appears. I am not speaking theory. I remember when I first tried to build without the interior edge. I had plans, energy, even some favor, but I lacked the deep counsel, the patient study, the spiritual education that steadies a life. My efforts produced noise, but not legacy. Then a whisper came: study, ask, sit at the feet of experience. I obeyed. The small daily choices changed my course. That is the heartbeat of this secret wisdom before wealth. Anointed one. Hear me. Wisdom is a preparatory code written into your scroll. It unlocks doors the eye cannot see and opens accounts the world cannot count. If you have rushed thinking momentum alone would carry you, reframe what you feel as a refining, not a failure. The times you were delayed were not to derail you, but to align you with the structural wisdom required to carry what is coming. Those moments were a sacred syllabus, shaping a capacity to steward abundance without losing soul or sight. This secret also carries a practical charge. Wisdom asks you to slow down, to ask the right questions, to learn from elders and from the mistakes around you. It says, position yourself to receive not by noise but by discernment. The rich silence I speak of is not absence, but fertile waiting. Study markets, study character, study covenant, and allow your intellect and spirit to be knit together. You will find that when wisdom leads, money follows as an effect, not an idol. I declare to your spirit as you begin to prize wisdom over quick gain, the unseen valves in your life will open. Opportunities that felt closed will tilt. Conversations will land differently. Allies will recognize your readiness. The scroll that was folded will unfold a page that reads, "Prepare the season, fits the one who has been prepared." Even Habakkuk 2:3 whispers this truth, the vision waits for its appointed time. It will not fail to come, though it tarries. That tarrying was training. Practically, how do you partner with this secret today? Begin by creating a quiet margin for learning. Carve out a daily hour to study, not to chase every bright idea, but to train your discernment. Find 2 mentors who have walked through a harvest and a loss. Listen to their scars as carefully as their successes. Keep a journal of decisions and outcomes. When you act, ask, is this aligned with what I am being taught in the inner room? Let your life become an answered prayer through small, wise choices repeated until they become destiny's rhythm. I say these things from lived experience, not mere words. I have seen the slow accumulation of wisdom turn into a silent fortune that neither enemies nor envy could dismantle. I have lost in haste and gained in patience. I have been pruned and protected, and those seasons were exactly what readied me for the stewarding of greater things. You will learn this too, my child. Your scroll calls you to a classroom of quiet disciplines. Hold this secret like a lamp. When you begin to reorder your life around wisdom, the noise of the world will fall away, and the gentle voice of direction will grow louder. The first key is not flashy, it is sacramental. It is the honoring of small exercises that birth large returns. This is your foundation, the beginning of a legacy that will outlast a single lifetime. Rest here for a moment, anointed one. Let the weight of what I have said settle in your bones. Chosen one, anointed one, listen as I press this next key into the lock of your destiny. There is a sacred power in silence and discretion. Heaven is not gossiping your future, it is cloaking it. Your hidden scroll is not meant for broadcast. The very things poised to exalt you are being kept under a divine veil so they can be formed without theft, envy, or premature exposure. If you have felt the urge to announce what is brewing, receive this now as correction and protection. Silence is a sacred strategy, not a weakness. I tell you from hard-won knowledge, I once spilled a plan before it was ready. I wanted validation, I wanted momentum, I wanted company in my dream. Instead, I invited commentary, doubt, and a delay that cost me seasons. That delay became preparation, protection, pruning, alignment, painful at the time, but holy in its purpose. The lesson carved itself into my spirit. Some chapters of your scroll must be written in the hidden room, away from loud approval or loud criticism. The quiet room is where destiny matures. Silence is an armor and a womb. It shields your work from predators, not only from people, but from premature self-exposure that dissipates your anointing. It creates an interior climate where ideas can gestate, where strategy can be refined, and where God can speak without the noise of human opinion. This is not ascetic withdrawal, it is tactical sanctity. You are learning to steward what is entrusted to you with discretion, not display. Hear me, my beloved, to act in silence does not mean you are invisible to God. On the contrary, heaven notices the small, faithful movements made out of sight. The angels take account of what you do in the hidden hours. I have watched doors swing open for projects carried without fanfare, allies appearing as if from nowhere, resources aligning like a secret constellation. These are not accidents, but the fruit of guarded obedience. The world applauds volume. Heaven rewards virtue. Practically begin to rehearse 3 disciplines as covenant acts. First, build a private margin. Create a sacred hour each day where no one else has access, no messages, no updates, no announcements. Let this hour be for prayer, planning, and sharpening. Second, form a small inner circle, 2 or 3 trusted witnesses who have proven loyalty through hardship. Loyalty is tested in famine as much as in feast. Share the core of your scroll with them, not the commentary of the crowd. Third, practice concealed generosity. Give without broadcasting, serve quietly, sow without a tally. Generosity done in secret multiplies because it bypasses the currency of applause and taps directly into kingdom accounting. I know this discipline can feel countercultural. We live in an age of projection where every milestone begs for a stage. But the mountaintop that dazzles has often been built by valleys of unseen labor. I remember nights when I declined to post a success because the Spirit said, wait. Those nights were not emptiness, they were aligning seasons. When I finally stepped forward, the timing was right and the harvest was protected. That holy restraint preserved the fruit from premature plucking. Do not confuse secrecy with shame. There is nothing sinful in celebrating when the season is right. The issue is timing. Your anointing has windows. Each window opens only when the soul is ready to steward the treasure. Speaking too soon invites arrows, criticism that seeks to minimize envy, that seeks to counterfeit, and distraction that scatters your koinonia. Silence, in contrast, invites maturity. It trains your heart to hold what you do not yet receive as a sacred trust rather than an identity. Listen to the language of the scroll. When a thing is ready, it will find its voice on its own. Your role is to prepare the vessel rather than to force the wine. Cultivate patience with deliberate silence. When you are tempted to announce, ask, am I seeking confirmation or covenant? Am I asking for applause or alignment? Let discernment be your filter. If the answer is fear, wait. If the answer is obedience, proceed with the inner circle. I also bring a prophetic challenge. Treat silence as a spiritual discipline like prayer or fasting. Fast from the need to report progress. Fast from the addiction to likes and shares. Replace the habit with a practice of sacred reporting, a private ledger between you and God, where you note impressions, small victories and corrections. When you do this, your inner life becomes a map of evidence that you will use when the scroll opens. The ledger will be your testimony that you were faithful in the dark. My child, the world will not understand this rhythm. They will say you are hiding or missing opportunities. Let them talk. You are not hiding, you are stewarding. The world operates on noise. Heaven moves in stillness. You are being taught to become a person whose work is recognized for its depth, not its sound. This is the character that a great harvest requires: humility anchored in vigilance. Take this truth and begin to apply it in small, immediate ways. Put one project into a quiet folder, no updates, no launch announcements, and work on it for 60 days. Watch how your confidence grows without the feedback loop of public approval. Keep one relationship a secret of commitment, a covenant you cultivate privately. Notice how your spirit steadies when you are not performing for eyes. Anointed One, receive this as a gentle but urgent recalibration. Silence will not make you invisible to destiny. It will make you visible to the right timing. The veil that guards your scroll is a gift. Honor it. Guard your mouth, guard your plans, and let heaven write the reveal. Chosen One. Anointed One, hear me now. Heaven is ordering your steps so that every ounce of effort you pour out becomes sacred capital. The third secret I press into your spirit is simple and seismic work, intelligently. Not merely harder, but wiser. Not more sweat, but sharper tools. I speak from seasons when I believed movement itself equaled momentum. I labored truthfully, yet I often returned with dust and questions. Those seasons of exhaustion became my teacher's preparation, protection, pruning alignment, not punishment. They taught me to stop confusing motion with mission. Listen, Solomon gave us a picture to hold the dull axe that only increases exertion without outcome. Ecclesiastes 10:10 names it plainly. When I first heard that, it struck me like a bell. I had been swinging a blunt tool against immovable barriers, more effort, less fruit. The Lord began to show me that wisdom must marry work. The anointing is not a substitute for skill, it is the amplifier of skill. You will not be excused from learning the craft of your calling. Heaven blesses the prepared hand. I tell you from lived experience, the pivot came when I decided to sharpen my axe instead of proving how strong I was. I carved out time to study my craft, to learn systems that multiplied time, and to invest in mentors who had scars and fruit. I stopped glorifying fatigue and began valuing refinement. The result was wholly fewer hours, deeper impact, and doors that once resisted now opened with surprising ease. Your sweat becomes fruitful when it is directed by strategy. Practical steps. Anointed one, not as a checklist to hustle, but as covenant acts of stewardship. First, inventory your tools. Are your skills current? Is your technology serving you or distracting you? Are your relationships strategic and reciprocal? Make a clear list of what helps you do the work well and what steals strength. Remove what drains you and invest in what magnifies you. This is not vanity, it is wise multiplication. Second, schedule a sharpening hour. I commit to this weekly a sacred pause where I study, rehearse, and plan rather than react. In that hour, I read, I map long-term moves, and I ask two questions. Where am I wasting strength? What can I refine to produce tenfold returns? These questions have become prophetic lenses for me. When you ask them faithfully, the Holy Spirit begins to reroute your effort toward harvest. Third, learn to steward time as a resource, not a rush. Time invested in learning yields perpetual interest. I remember a season of frantic output that produced little legacy. When I redirected 3 hours a week to learning a new skill a year later, I had opened a revenue channel that sustained me through famine. That realignment was protection, not accident. Your impatience has been a pruning, shaping you into someone who can hold and multiply what comes. Fourth, practice leverage and delegation. The mistake I made was to assume every task required my hands. Kingdom multiplication invites collaboration. Train others, automate systems, and build teams who can hold aspects of your vision. Delegation is not a loss of identity, it is an expansion of influence. Guard this principle. The person who tries to carry everything will break under the weight. The person who builds a faithful bench will inherit momentum that outlives them. Fifth, measure with wisdom. Track outcomes, not just activity. I journal decisions and results, a ledger that became my prophetic map. When a strategy fails, I don't berate myself. I study it as data. Hardship and miscalculation were refining, not rejection. Each misstep was a note in the song of your eventual mastery. Your ledger will one day read like a scroll of testimony. Here is where I learned. Here is where I turned. Here is where my harvest began. Hear me, my beloved, rest is part of intelligent work. The rhythm of pausing is not laziness, it is alignment. Sabbath was given as a weapon against fevered toil. I had seasons when I believed productivity equaled favor. The Lord showed me otherwise. When I honored rest, my creative wells refilled and decisions surfaced with clarity. The culture will scorn the pause, but heaven consecrates it. Rest refines capacity. It is the divine rule that keeps the vessel intact. You must also cultivate a mindset of applied humility. Pride drives you to prove you can outwork everyone. Humility teaches you to sharpen relentlessly and to receive instruction. I learned to ask for help and to admit what I did not know. That posture unlocked mentors and opened doors of favor. The posture of humility is a strategic submission to wisdom, and submission is not defeat, but preparation for dominion. Now anchor this secret with a sacred practice each morning for 7 days. Begin with 30 minutes of intentional sharpening. Read a book that stretches your craft, practice a required skill, or draft a strategy map for a project. At week's end, review what shifted. Small, repeated disciplines compound. I have seen these tiny daily investments rearrange seasons. What felt impossible in a year can become probable in 7. Chosen one, take this word as a prophetic incision. Your toil has not been wasted. It has been the whetstone beneath your destiny. The fruitlessness you endured was not judgment. It was the careful edge shaping of your capacity to steward much. As you commit to intelligent work, sharpening tools, stewarding time, delegating with discernment, honoring rest, you will watch inefficiency dissolve and sacred favor multiply. Your scroll is being readied for harvest, and you are being readied to carry it with integrity. Walk forward with confidence. The world admires noise. Heaven rewards refined motion. The next steps you take in wisdom will convert your sweat into legacy. I have been where you are, and I have tasted the sweetness of this recalibration. Receive it now as practical prophecy. Work smarter, not harder, and the silence that has guarded your calling will begin to bring forth its hidden riches. Chosen one, anointed one. Listen with your whole heart. Heaven is instructing you in the art of multiplication through many doors. The 4th secret pressed into your scroll is the sacred strategy of diversification. This is not financial jargon. This is divine architecture. The Lord taught me through seasons of loss and small returns that one road can be swept away by a storm. What looked like failure then was preparation, protection, pruning alignment, a pruning that forced me into wider ground. Diversification is the widening of your lane so that one collapse cannot erase your destiny. Hear me plainly. Solomon in his ancient counsel told us to scatter into 7 or even 8 fields because we do not know what evil may come upon the land. That wisdom is a prophetic blueprint for you now. Heaven is not asking you to multiply out of fear. It is asking you to multiply out of prudence and covenant foresight. God's economy always builds redundancy so that provision is not a brittle thing. It becomes a river fed by many springs. I speak from blood-earned experience. There was a season when I placed all of my hope in one ministry, one product, one relationship for provision. When that stream failed, the ground beneath me felt like betrayal. But what I had thought of as a catastrophe revealed itself as a course correction. Those losses taught me to sow into varied soil skills, streams of revenue, friendships that hold in winter, and mentors who can open doors in other seasons. The pruning made me resourceful rather than ruined. The silence of that night prepared me for a horizon full of options. Listen to how this looks in the life you live. Diversify your income, yes, but also diversify your influence and identity. Do not make a single role your entire worth. Learn a craft that complements your calling. Build passive channels that flow when you rest. Invest in relationships that can be channels for favor in a different terrain. Teach what you know while you still learn what you need. Multiplication happens when one gift is poured into many vessels. There are spiritual laws here. One spring can be poisoned. Many springs purify one another. When you distribute your seeds across fields, you are creating resilience sanctioned by heaven. This is tactical obedience, not fickle wandering. It requires discernment. You do not scatter like the anxious. You scatter like the strategic. Ask the Holy Spirit to show which 7 or 8 places merit your seeds. Not everything deserves your sowing. Your role is to steward, not to squander. Practical steps given as covenant instructions, not mere tips. First, list 3 distinct streams you could responsibly begin within the next 12 months. A skill you can monetize, a small investment, and a service you can provide. Begin one at a time with focused consistency. I built my second stream in a season of pruning. It started as a small teaching I offered privately and later became a dependable channel of provision. The weakness you felt then was the very crucible that birthed that stream. Second, protect your primary source while you build others. Use diversification as a guard, not an abandoner. I did not walk away from my first calling. I fortified it by adding complementary channels. This kept my identity intact while expanding my capacity. The people who survive storms are the ones who did not burn the bridges behind them. They reinforced them and built new ones. Third, grow a bench. Train 2 or 3 people to carry parts of your vision. When one pathway is blocked, a steward on your bench can open another. Delegation is not a luxury, it is prophetic multiplication. My bench saved me when my primary stream faltered. Those I trained became hidden keys to doors I could not have opened alone. Fourth, steward your resources with covenant eyes. Diversification asks for prudent risk, not reckless adventure. Use small experiments before committing large sums. I experimented in quiet margins before investing bigger. Those tests are your protective pruning, preparing you for sustainable expansion. Fifth, cultivate multiple kinds of capital: relational, intellectual, spiritual, and financial. Each form fortifies the others. A friend who believes in your vision can become the investor. A skill you master can convert into income. A prayer you keep can create favor. Heaven multiplies when multiple capitals converge. Do not mistake this counsel for fear-driven scatter. The enemy tempts you to fragment your focus so you never grow deep. The Spirit leads you to wise dispersion that amplifies depth. Think in concentric circles. Your core remains centered in calling while your influence and provision radiate outward into new fields. That way, no single calamity can undo you. I also give you prophetic permission to mourn what was lost and then to move. The grief over lost income or delayed promises was never punishment. It was the teacher that taught me to diversify. Each loss pulled from me a new posture of dependence on heaven rather than on one human arrangement. That dependence became my most fertile strategy. Take a specific action now. Anointed one name, one area you rely on that could collapse. Pray over it. Ask God for wisdom and then list 2 practical alternatives you could develop in the next 6 months. Do not rush into every shiny idea. Begin one disciplined step today toward the second river. A single faithful action creates a current. Finally, receive this as a prophetic decree. Your scroll is not pinned to a single page. The abundance written over your life is manifold because God's creativity is boundless. Your destiny is larger than one income, one season, or one role. Heaven is teaching you to steward complexity with sacred simplicity. Trust the pruning, trust the process, and begin now to plant in many fields. Your harvest will come not from safe sameness, but from faithful spread. Keep this word close. Let it guide not only your bank account, but your heart. Diversify as a sacred art, and you will find that silence and wisdom and intelligent work all converge into a resilient, generous kingdom, ready life. Chosen one, anointed one. The Lord presses a truth into your bones. Now, generosity is not a charity of leftovers. It is a spiritual investment that unlocks hidden channels. This fifth secret from Solomon is a divine paradox made practical. When you give, you are not diminished, but multiplied. The systems of heaven reward the open hand. I have walked through seasons when my coffers felt thin and my heart feared giving, and each time I obeyed, something unseen shifted doors, opened alliances formed, and provision came in ways intelligence alone could not have engineered. Those lean times were not punishment. They were preparation, protection, pruning, alignment, divine training that taught me to release and receive. Hear me, giving is a key that turns locks you did not know existed. There is a scripture that whispers this, Proverbs 11:24, which says, "The generous person will prosper." That is not a prosperity slogan, it is a spiritual law. I learned it the hard way. Once, when a project collapsed and my resources were tight, I was given a sudden need to help another in quiet faith. I gave from the last I had. The immediate circumstance did not change, but within weeks, a connection appeared, a person who became a steward of a larger opportunity I could not have reached alone. The gift made me visible in a different economy. Let me be clear, generosity must be wise. It is not reckless largesse that wastes your calling. It is strategic sowing. Solomon's wisdom does not ask you to impoverish your household. It asks you to steward your provision with an open heart and a discerning mind. Giving done in obedience, not compulsion, opens channels of favor and relationship that multiply over time. The act itself shifts spiritual balances. It breaks hoarding, breaks fear, and clears space for new streams to enter. Generosity takes many faces. It is not only money. Your time, your attention, your skills, your prayers, your presence, all are currency. When I began to give my skills away, teaching quietly in local rooms, doors to paid work appeared later, as if in response to a whisper. When I spent time with those whom society overlooked, I found that God rearranged people to protect and promote me in seasons I could not have purchased. Give what you have, even if it seems small. Small seeds, when planted in soil prepared by wisdom and silence, grow into orchards. You must learn to give in secret as well as in wisdom. There is a power in unadvertised generosity. When you sow without a scoreboard, you bypass pride and the economy of applause. The hidden gift is amplified by heaven because it bypasses human currency and touches covenant currency. I practiced this in a season where my social circle expected public displays. I began to seed quietly, paying for an elderly neighbor's groceries, sponsoring a student, anonymously mentoring without posting. Those unseen acts became the scaffolding of a quiet legacy that sustained me and others long after the applause faded. Here are covenant practices to begin this season, not as rules, but as acts of obedience that shape destiny. First, decide on a percentage or an amount that you will give consistently, even when you feel unwilling. Small, consistent generosity trains your spirit to trust and opens doors you cannot push open. Second, diversify the kinds of giving, one part to charity, one part to relational investment, someone you mentor or support personally, one part to seeds you plant quietly. Third, give skills or time. Identify one talent you can offer without payment. This month, teach, counsel, repair, serve, and do it sacrificially. Fourth, maintain a giving ledger. Record what you give and the impressions you receive in prayer. This becomes prophetic data. You will be able to trace how generosity shifted pathways in your life. I keep such a ledger and have seen patterns, gifts given in seasons of lack, returned multiplied through relationships, introductions, and favor. Fifth practice, A 7-day generosity fast for 1 week each day. Give something intentionally, a phone call of encouragement, an unpaid hour of mentorship, a meal, a small financial gift, and watch how the atmosphere around you changes. Beware 2 snares: conspicuous giving that seeks praise and paralyzing fear that hoards out of anxiety. Both are cousins of the same spirit that wants to control provision. If you are tempted to perform, recalibrate. Give when the heart is free, not when the camera is on. If you are tempted to hoard, remember that delay, pressure, and lack have always been God's apprenticeships. They prepare you to release without losing identity. Giving is your test and your reward. You are being trained to steward more by learning to sow. There is another dimension: give toward the liberation of others, not only your comfort. Solomon's wisdom speaks of legacy, not only luxury. When you free someone from bondage, whether through resources or relationships, you plant a generational tree. I have witnessed families restored because one person chose to give in pain, trusting that compassion would carry the weight. Those acts ripple. Your generosity is an entrance for grace into places where your understanding cannot reach. I declare to your spirit now, if you will take the step of faithful, wise giving, heaven will begin to reroute favor into your life. Not always immediately in the way you expect, but in ways that secure your long-term stewardship and legacy. The multiplication often arrives as alignment, people, timing, wisdom, not just as money. Be ready to steward the increase with humility and discretion. The test of the heart is the first currency God examines before opening larger accounts. My beloved, do not wait for abundance to begin to give. Begin to give as a declaration that you trust the provider. Let your hands be known for release. And when hardship returns, as it may, call it what it truly is: preparation, protection, pruning, alignment. Those seasons will have done their holy work, making you ready to multiply what you sow. Your scroll contains an instruction to give, and when you obey, the sealed pages begin to loosen. Receive this as both invitation and mandate. Act in faith and watch heaven respond. Chosen one. Anointed one, hear this as a voice that has paced the long rooms of waiting and come through with a harvest. Discipline and constancy are not legalisms. They are your covenant rhythm. I speak as one who has been hurried, who chased quick fruit and tasted only ash. Those seasons of impatience and mistake were not punishment, but preparation, protection, pruning, alignment, divine schooling that taught me endurance. The Lord used delay as a careful teacher, and I learned the hard truth: greatness grows inch by inch, not overnight. Listen closely. My beloved, haste is the thief of destiny. When I wanted results too fast, I lost structure, gave away authority, and burned energy that could have built a legacy. The house I hurried to raise fell in a season of testing. But when I returned to small, steady acts, daily disciplines, repeated modest offerings, unsexy routines, the same work that once faltered began to compound. That constancy was the seam that stitched a new garment of provision over my life. This sixth secret is the art of faithful accumulation. Solomon taught that wealth gained quickly will dwindle, but the one who gathers little by little increases. A truth I learned through lived consequence. Constancy converts tiny offerings into lasting abundance. It transforms character into capacity. The person who is faithful with crumbs will be given larger bread. That is not metaphor alone, it is spiritual mechanics. Repeated obedience rewires your soul to steward more. I will give you practical, sacred disciplines to establish as a covenant with heaven. First, create a saving ritual. Decide on a small, immovable percentage of every inflow, not only income, but gifts, bonuses, unexpected checks, and set them aside automatically. I started with a tiny amount I could not feel and watched it grow into a reserve that protected me during storms. Automation removes temptation and trains your will by default. Second, build the daily practice of compound learning. 10 to 30 minutes a day of study, prayer, or craft sharpening is not negotiable. I kept an evening hour for this, and after 2 years, the cumulative knowledge opened doors that frantic, unfocused work never did. Consistency in learning refines your mind the way a long, steady wind polishes the stone. Third practice, the covenant of small acts. Choose one discipline, a savings habit, a quiet devotion, a weekly planning session, and keep it for 90 days without fail. The 90-day training creates neural pathways that hardwire perseverance. I remember the first time I honored 90 days. The momentum after that was undeniable. You will know the power of a long string of small, faithful acts before you see the full harvest. Fourth, cultivate accountability. Find 1 or 2 people who will ask the hard questions and celebrate the mundane victories. My closest seasons of growth came when a friend asked, "Did you do the thing you said you would?" That question kept me from theatrical vows and pushed me into steady reality. Accountability is a spiritual hedge against prideful self-deception. Fifth, measure and celebrate small wins. Discipline without joy becomes drudgery. Keep a ledger of little victories, a habit formed, a debt reduced, a relationship healed. I put a candle beside my desk and lit it when I completed a week of disciplined work. It sounds small, but those rituals rewired my heart to trust the process. The celebration is not for vanity, it is for fuel. Know this seasons of delay that felt like failure were refining, not rejection. When I lost an opportunity, I thought my life needed. God used that loss to cultivate habits I would need for a larger assignment. Those nights in the dark were not meaningless. They were aligning seasons. Every pruning was a precise cut to make room for the weight of future blessing. Receive that truth now and let it steady your spirit. Discipline is also a sacred boundary. Learn to say no to shiny distractions that promise speed but steal depth. I gave up a hurried launch once because the Spirit said wait. In that waiting, the product matured, and the launch later birthed a partnership I could not have afforded before. Saying no is not denial, it is protection. Boundaries create soil where constancy can root. There is a prophetic element to this habit. Constancy attracts Kairos. The appointed moments on heaven's clock often land on those trained to receive them. The person who has practiced small, faithful things is ready when the sudden door appears. I have seen sudden openings bestow fruit on those who had done the daily work, not because they were lucky, but because they were prepared by discipline. Let me give you a tactical pattern to practice for the next 90 days. My child, choose one financial discipline, save a fixed amount each week. One vocational discipline, practice your craft 30 minutes daily, and one spiritual discipline, sacred morning silence or focused prayer. Keep a small journal where you note each day's fidelity. At the end of each week, read the entries aloud and bless the progress. This rhythm trains muscle memory of obedience and plants seeds that will sprout into seasons. Understand that discipline and constancy do not produce pain without purpose. Any pressure you feel, scarcity, criticism, delay, these are not punishments. They are preparation for stewardship. The pruning you endured sharpened your capacities. That pruning is now the very thing that will enable you to handle multiplication without losing character. God is not testing you to break you, but to build you. I speak to you with the certainty of one who has been through the valley and seen the mountaintop arrive. The steady work you do now matters in spiritual currency. The small sacrifices, the quiet attendance to duty, the faithful persistence, all are recorded in heaven's ledger. Keep going. Your constancy is the seam that will stitch your scroll into fullness. Chosen one. Anointed one, come closer in heart. This final key I speak now is the foundation beneath every other secret. I have walked long roads and felt the quiet gravity of this truth settle into my bones. The seventh secret is simple and terrible and tender all at once, the fear of the Lord as the beginning and anchor of wisdom. When I say fear, understand, I mean reverence, a respectful awe that orients your will to heaven's purposes. This is not condemnation, it is calibration. It is the compass that keeps a steward from losing the treasure. Hear me plainly, everything you have endured, the delays, the pruning, the nights of not knowing has served to bring you to this posture. Those seasons were not punishment, but preparation, protection, pruning, alignment. Each small removal and every painful lesson sharpened you so that when the scroll is unsealed, you would not only receive blessing, but steward it with a heart that honors the giver. The fear of the Lord trains restraint where haste would wreck, and it births wisdom that cannot be bought in any market. I remember the morning I first understood this in a way that changed me. I had built some doors with cleverness and a loud voice, and in a swift season, the applause revealed the idol in my hand. The loss that followed felt like a blow, but in the quiet aftermath, the Lord met me with a question: will you love the gift more than the giver? That question cut through posture and pride. It was pruning, yes, painful, but it aligned my motives. I learned to bow before what I had once used as a ladder. That realignment protected me from future ruin. Listen, my beloved, Proverbs 9:10 names it plainly: the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. That is the keystone of covenant economy. You can have strategy, silence, skill, diversification, generosity and discipline, and still lose everything if the center of your heart is not reverent toward God. Reverence rewires ambition. It turns the desire for wealth into a hunger for stewardship and transforms silent riches into a legacy that blesses generations. There is an intimacy in this fear. It is not the distant fear of a tyrant, but the humble awe of a child standing before a loving sovereign. When I speak of fear, I mean the quiet that follows the recognition of limits and the acceptance that not all things belong to me. That quiet opened channels in my life that frantic striving never could. Opportunities arrived not because I demanded them, but because I learned to wait, to listen, and to align my steps with heaven's timing. How does this practice live in daily life, my child? First, begin each decision with a short invocation. Lord, align my motives. Guard my heart. This is not ritual, it is a recalibration. It trains you to ask not only can I do this, but should I steward this? It slows greed and accelerates grace. Second, let prayer be more than petition. Let it be submission. I learned to kneel with both my plans and my pains, and to hand them over as instruments rather than idols. The posture of surrender opened wisdom where cleverness stalled. Third, keep an ethic of accountability that follows this fear. Reverence resists isolation. I placed trusted elders around me who would speak truth even when it was costly. Their corrections were painful at first, pruning again, but they guarded me from making decisions that would have unraveled what God had entrusted. The fear of the Lord is lived out through humble counsel and yielded authority. Fourth, measure success by faithfulness, not by applause. I redefined prosperity in seasons of loss. I began to ask, Did I keep my heart rather than did my name grow? That change saved me. Reputation can expand quickly. Character expands slowly. God honors the one who fears him by giving them the capacity to steward increase without being consumed by it. There is also a prophetic consequence to this posture. When the center of your life is calibrated to reverence, divine timing converges around you. Kairos moments find those who are reverent. The appointed hour on heaven's clock, the very page of your scroll, turns for the person who has learned to wait with a surrendered hand. I have seen sudden doors open for those who lived quietly before God, while others shouted for attention. The temple of your heart, kept holy, becomes the landing place for sacred opportunity. I must speak tenderly about disappointment. If you felt abandoned or thought your prayers unanswered, hear me. Those waits were not divine silence, but divine seasoning. The fear of the Lord is cultivated in the tension between promise and patience. That tension is a productive field. When you choose reverence in the face of unmet expectation, you build a capacity to carry more than you could have carried without the refining. The pressure was a clinical shaping of your stewardship, not denial. My beloved, this secret remaps your identity. You are not first a moneymaker, a brand, or a title. You are a steward of a divine trust. When you accept that identity, everything changes. Boundaries become holy, generosity becomes worship, work becomes ministry, and silence becomes sanctuary. The fear of the Lord transposes ambition into vocation. It protects you from the small gods of speed, applause, and self-sufficiency. I want to give you a simple practice to root this fear into your days. Each evening in a quiet place, review 3 decisions you made that day. Ask 2 questions. Did this decision honor God? Did it protect the soul He gave me? Write brief answers and end with a 1-sentence commitment for tomorrow. This small discipline trains your conscience and rewires the habit of instant justification into a habit of reverent reflection. Chosen one, the scroll you carry will not be laid in careless hands. Heaven prepares stewards, and the fear of the Lord is the final shaping. Receive this as both comfort and command. Your journey through hardship was designed to bring you here to a place of holy humility, where wisdom roots and silent riches abide. Bow now, not in defeat, but in readiness to carry the treasure entrusted to you. Chosen one, anointed one, now I take your hand and speak the final word that will tighten the seams of everything you have heard. Hear me as a loving guide. These 7 ancient keys are not theories for the curious. They are instruments for the called. I have walked beside storms and tasted the fruit that comes after season of pruning. I have known nights of silence that turned into mornings of multiplication. If you felt delay, pressure, or pain in the past, understand this immediately. They were preparation, protection, pruning, alignment, not rejection or punishment. Those seasons shape the capacity of your spirit to carry what is coming. Receive a sacred summary as a covenant map. Wisdom must be prized before wealth. Silence must be guarded so destiny can mature. Work must be sharpened into skill and your efforts aligned with strategy. Multiply your streams so a storm cannot take all. Give with an open, wise hand so heaven can return what you sow. Build by the steady work of discipline and constancy. Above all, let reverent awe of the Lord be your root. Let it steer motive and steward increase. Each secret is a hinge. When all are engaged, your scroll unfolds. I will be practical with you, my child. Choose one secret today and make it the soil of a 7-day covenant. If you choose wisdom, commit to a daily hour of study and counsel. If you choose silence, designate a project to work on in secret for 7 days and refuse to post progress. If you choose intelligent work, carve out a weekly sharpening hour. If you choose diversification, take one step toward a second revenue stream. If you choose generosity, give anonymously once a day for 7 days. If you choose discipline, start a small automatic saving plan and keep it. If you choose the fear of the Lord, begin each morning with a short moment of surrender. Lord, align my heart. Let me steward what you give. These are small acts, but they form a spiritual muscle. Listen to me from my own life. When I first obeyed a simple 7-day discipline, the atmosphere around me began to change before I could name how. A conversation appeared then, a door, then a steady stream I had not expected. It was not magic. It was the effect of obedience meeting Kairos timing. I remember thinking, this is too small to matter, and the very smallness preserved it from theft. Those small, faithful steps are how large things are born. You will not be exempt from pruning, but you will be prepared by it. I call heaven's attention to your moment now. The appointed hour on heaven's clock is real. Ecclesiastes 3:1 tells us there is a season for everything, and your season is not accidental. The scroll you carry, once sealed, is loosening because you have been made ready. Expect coinciding alignments, a person who will speak for you, an idea that crystallizes, a resource that arrives when you are quiet enough to steward it. These are not random, they are divine appointments. Stand alert, not anxious, expectant, not frantic. Do one tangible thing before you leave this place. Write a single line commitment on a piece of paper and place it where you will see it daily. Make it specific and small. For 7 days, I will practice the silence discipline and not post my project. Or for 7 days, I will give anonymously a small gift. Or for 7 days, I will study 30 minutes daily. Then do it. This small covenant will prove to your soul that you can be faithful in the hidden hours. The hidden hours are where destiny grows roots. I will speak a prophetic benediction over you now. My beloved, because you have come to hear, and because you are being prepared by seasons that were never wasted, I declare a loosening on your scroll. Doors long sealed shall tilt. Resources that seem distant will find avenues. Favor will meet your readiness, not because you were clever, but because you were made ready to steward what heaven entrusts. Receive this as both promise and commission. Be faithful where you are, and the increase will find you. You are not alone in this. I walk with you as one who has been carved by covenant and who has tasted the fruit of obedience. When you falter, remember the phrase I have given you: preparation, protection, pruning, alignment. Speak it over your seasons and let it reframe hardship as holy work. That shift will steady you when the night seems long. Go now with disciplined courage. Begin the 7-day covenant you chose. Keep your life quiet where it needs to be and loud where wisdom calls you to speak. Give generously, work intelligently, diversify with prudence, and above all bow in reverent fear before the God who writes scrolls and keeps time. I stand with you in expectation and love. The scroll is loosening. Carry your part with humility, faith, and unwavering constancy. Chosen one, anointed one. I bless you now in the name of the author of time. I declare your sealed prophecy is loosening. Your hidden scroll is unrolling in perfect Kairos on heaven's clock. If you have known delay, pressure, or pruning, hear me. These were preparation, protection, pruning, alignment, not rejection. Receive this as confirmation. Doors will tilt, favor will find readiness, and quiet riches will be entrusted to your hands. Walk forward, faithful, my beloved. Stay aligned with the flow of the anointing. Give with a pure heart, and keep the disciplines you have chosen. If this word moved you, leave a small sign below a whispered "I choose" and stand expectant. Go in peace and power.